Welcome back to Book Club. Woo! It's been a while, hasn't it?
A long time.
It's been a while, and we can definitely remember what happens in this book. Hopefully you can too.
So we should say the book we've been reading is Ravenor Rogue.
Ravenor Rogue, where he's told very early in it not to go rogue.
Don't be a rogue.
Don't be a rogue. So we're going to talk about Ravenor Rogue today. We're going to go through the book. You're going to give us your action movie brief plot summary. We're going to talk about some of the important themes in it and also what we thought of this series in general, because one of the things we've done before this is we've read Eisenhorn.
Yes.
So this is obviously quite different to Eisenhorn, has a different feel. We're at the end of the trilogy.
Yeah.
We've got one more book to do before we catch up with ourselves, because we've already done the Beckwin first 2 books.
Yes.
So when we'll do that, we'll see what happens. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Just so you know, we do these book clubs every couple of months, I guess, at this point, with Books in 40k. These ones are ones we've been doing for meaning to read for a long time. But usually, or occasionally, I suppose, the intention is that we ask the people on the Patreon what they want us to read.
Yes.
So maybe we'll do that next. Maybe we'll go straight to the Majos. We do not know at this point.
A lot of people have been saying read Majos.
Yeah.
So I'm scared of those people, but also I'm scared of the Patreons as well. So
yeah. And then at the end, we have questions. So our Patreons then ask questions and give us their observations about the book, of which we have a couple. So we'll go through all that. Yeah. But otherwise, shall we start? Actually, usually we'd start this with Mira giving her action movie plot summary, which we will do. But I feel like it's been a while, we should probably just say where we are so far.
Well, emotionally, I've been through a lot recently. Oh, you mean the books?
Hey!
But seriously, we've both been up to a lot. I've had a really crushing deadline for the publication that I work on 3 times a year. It comes out. Ian's been working with angry 80s pop stars and talking
raccoons.
Yeah. So that's why we've been away for so long. But I think what Ian means is you want to recap us on the 2 previous books.
Yeah. Which are Ravenor and Ravenor Returned.
Yes.
In which, and I'll be really brief, we meet an Inquisitor called Ravenor. I mean, that's a really bad start to start with.
It is.
We meet an Inquisitor
called Ravenor.
Ravenor is Professor X.
Yes.
And he's sad about it. And in the first book, he goes on a chase. He goes on a drug hunt. It's like many of these books. They start off relatively normal. It's a police story. It's a drug chase. The drugs are warp-tainted window smashes from a planet. They go around and they find the government are in on it.
Yes.
In the second book, we discover that the government are really in on it. In fact, they're running this whole...
They're so in on it, they've hollowed out a whole planet.
Yes.
So they're trying to make a planet become this organ to embrace chaos and...
Yeah. And that they're also led, secretly, the person who's in charge is the... nemesis of Ravenor, who he thought dead. He continually tries to kill and continually keeps returning from the dead. Sigmund Moloch. Who is one of the people from the... Oh, God, what are they called? The Cogniti. He's a Cogniti, so he uses Enuncia, which is magic words.
Magic words. So you could say, I could say Ian, and he'd just be stopped and do what I commanded, which he did earlier.
Head explode.
He made us some tea.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
True. In the second book, we find out that it's a massive conspiracy. They realise that it's Moloch. Also, Ravenor's interrogator Carl is accidentally hosting a demon.
Oh no!
And they end up
not just any demon,
a really bad demon. And they end up foiling Moloch's plans. Moloch and his associate Colzian get away, and a few people are killed. Various things happen, but that's where we are at the end of this. So we had the first bit, which was a straight crime novel. We had the second bit, which is a bit more of an action novel. And now we're on to the third bit, which I'm going to say is sort of the inevitable downfall of any Inquisitor trilogy and the horror one.
Yes, it's very horrible. I will read out my action.
Ravenor Rogue by Mira.
After 2 books of adventuring, Ravenor and his team are still trying to track down arch-nemesis Sigmund Next-Time Gadget Moloch, who is still a very bad man with a god complex. The Inquisition is not down with this idea and sends in a crack squad to order Team Ravenor to stand down. So imagine the bit in Shaun of the Dead where Shaun of the Dead meets all of their equivalent buddies. It's like that. Of course, Ravenor wouldn't let it lie. He wouldn't let it lie and goes rogue. hence the name of the book, Ravenor Rogue, and heads back out there. The baddies are badder in this book with a real sense of danger, only heightened by the torture and murdering that we suffer through, including the awkward love triangle that is Ravenor, Niall and Angarad. We get a trippy witch house. What house? Witch house. Which is a house of doors. Sadly, no Jim Morrison here, just the absolute definition of a trap house. A crazy, hippie, trippy house of doors that leads to awful places. And one place is a special area where mortal enemies, Ravenor and sleazy Orfeo Coulson, can have a chat in the middle of all this chaos.
I like Orfeo Coulson.
You like him. He is Tim Curry. The house fires Ravenor 1,000 years back into the past, into a planet of psychic triffids, if what I was reading is to be correct.
Yeah, that is correct.
Luckily, they find their way back to the gang in time to launch an offensive on Castle Greyskull, where all the baddies are, all of them. And Gideon, aka Slight, turns into a monumental tentacle monster, which require Moloch and Ravenor to team up.
Yeah, he like totally goes Akira.
Oh,
yeah.
Crazy, like horrible tentacle monster. Finally, we receive a not very happy ending where the Slight is killed, but that means Gideon is dead. Carl? Who's Gideon?
Ravenor.
Fuck. Sorry, I've said Gideon wrong twice. Carl is dead, and everyone is in big trouble for going rogue. The end. Until Beckwin stuff.
Until the next bit. One of the things I like the most about this is how we pick up a book called Ravenor Rogue, and almost scene one is actually a flashback to the first time they thought they killed Moloch, but just that you get in the fact that he thinks he keeps killing him. But actually, like the second scene in the book is a load of Inquisitors turning up to go, now whatever you do, Ravenor, don't go rogue. And then he's like, no, you're right. I'm not like Eisenhorn. I don't go rogue.
And it even says to his team, we mustn't go rogue. And they're like, are you sure we can't go rogue?
Yeah. And then like the bare minimum happens, which is Moloch kills one of the Inquisitors, and Ravenor's like, fuck it, not only am I going to go rogue, but I'm going immediately to a demon house full of psychers underwater. Like that quickly. There's no like, oh, I'll take one step down the dark path. It's like 0 to, no, I'm in total. It's a bit like, weirdly, what I thought was, it's a bit like Carl. Yeah. Like if Eisenhorn's like, I'm slowly taking steps down this path and everyone I'm regretting.
Yeah.
Carl is, throughout this whole trilogy, has been like, this is a big step, but it's okay, I can control it. And Ravenor almost does the same. He goes directly to, okay, I've got to go rogue, therefore I'm going to this witch house.
Yeah.
Which is like the most witchy thing I've ever seen.
Like 70s psychedelia, tarot card reading, crazy bullshit, monsters behind every door.
Yeah. And he does that like immediately, but he's like, no thoughts of this being bad. He's like, yeah, well, it's what you have to do.
It's like having a small prang in a mini metro. And then getting a bit pissed off, jumping into a monster car and just driving over every police car you can find in the area.
But it's what you had to do.
It's what you had to do.
There's a few plot points in this that have been wrapped up fully. Like the police plot point has been wrapped up. Maud Clayton is now just part of the gang, so there's no more investigating.
No, she literally just becomes part of the squad.
Yeah.
And actually it's quite a relief because there's a lot of weirdness going on with the other female members of the squad. So I was quite pleased that we brought her in.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the female kind of vibe in this seems to be captured and tortured.
There is a bit of that, isn't there? Yeah.
But also probably
Kiss and Cara at different points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, because our police lady gets caught, doesn't she?
Yeah.
But also, not only that, the miner on board is kept in a coma. It's all, and the poor Blank is tortured as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of spookiness in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, briefly, I did a similar thing, but I broke it down to 3 acts. You've got 3 acts in this in this thing. The first one is like everything up to him going rogue, which is actually really, really short.
Yeah.
Like, as we said, basically, they come in and go, you're too close to Moloch. We think he's dead. We're going to confirm he's dead, but that's it.
Yeah. They're like this. Is he dead? I think we found a body. He's dead.
And then Moloch kills him. One of the Inquisitors, Balak, turns out to be
double agent.
And Ravenor then realizes and goes rogue. Then you got the second act, which is almost entirely the witch house, which is probably the most fun bit, which is this game of trying to get access to it by tricking some high-end jewelers to give you a contact.
Oh my God, yeah, a mini heist.
Yeah.
Before, like, it's a mini Ocean's 12, whatever the one with Julia Roberts in was, and they have to, that really kind of confused me. It really stops the action and goes into this kind of like And the jewellery that they wear is part of this sect of jewellers that have special powerful gems and things.
It's I really like the witch house bit. It was something different.
Yes.
And different in its like chaosness. How would you describe what the witch house is?
So the witch house is basically like a psychedelic place run by monks, and it's a special door, and you open the door and it takes you to wherever, and it's meant to give you answers. So you think of a question, so there's some psychic stuff around it. What happens to Ravenor and his crew is they essentially get trapped, and the house it is a trap that Moloch has put together to kind of basically kill the squad, and they just go through more and more nightmare realms. So it's very trippy. For some reason, it reminded me of that book Neuromancer by William Gibson.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it's like a little flash tour of Warhammer and planets and...
It does the gazetteer thing very quickly in a very spooky way. Instead of like, I'm going to... I suppose a few of the other books in this series have been, I'm going to civilized planet and look at how the culture works. And this was very much a gazetteer of all the wilderness.
Yeah.
We should say it's a real place. Like it's this building that sort of walks on the bottom of the ice of this planet underwater.
Like a Baba Yaga.
Yeah, and you have to get someone to take you there who won't get shot out, and then you go through the door and the monks tend to door.
Yeah.
And you go to the door and it's meant to give you answers, and it could take you anywhere. And every time you open the door only opens when it's ready.
Wants to, yeah.
And the child operating it will open it for you, and then you'll go through the door.
They pick up another child.
Your sob.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what has happened is that Orfeo and Moloch have fucked with the door so that it will take them to them, where Orfeo and Moloch go, please have a truce. We need to kill Slight. And Ravenor says no.
Yeah, Ravenor is like, I need to kill this guy.
Yeah, and then they fuck with the door and it sends him to... One thing I thought was really nice in the way it's done, it sends him to a planet that's been eaten by Tyranids.
Oh my God. Can we ever escape the fucking, Tyranids?
They never mention that they're Tyranids because at this point in the 40k backstory, they haven't found Tyranids yet. Tyranids have not been discovered.
They should have left them undiscovered.
Yeah, so there's just this horde of beasts. And yeah, it ends up with Ravenor being sent 1,000 years into the past, which is a really nice idea, except he gets back of it in like the next paragraph he's back.
But it's really the worst bit of that, or maybe the best bit, is he gets sent back to the past. And these Tyranids have wrecked his like magic chair, and they pull his little body. Oh yeah! They take his body out of the chair, and I think that's the first time
you see him
in the 3 books. You get this description, and he's basically like just nothing. This tiny existing bit of skin, and the doctor on that planet feels so sorry for him. She's like, "I'll fix you," and betray
Psychic Triffid planet.
Yeah, and that she manages to send them home.
So yeah, there's a lot going on. I thought the Witch House was really interesting. I thought it was like a really nice, spooky, different idea. And it's also got that lovely thing that I like in a lot of Dan Abnett books, which is doing chaos, like doing what the threat of chaos is in this world, without it being demons and chaos space marines and it's just a really almost mundane. So we should talk about what actually happens then to Frauke and Zale. So essentially the plot here is Zale's been in a coma, and Frauke, they all thought he was the demon for many books.
Conveniently, because he was in a coma, they were all saying, we think that he's Slight and there's a similarity in his name or something. And then obviously we have this blank who's assigned to purely, his one job in this book becomes keep an eye on the kid in the coma.
Yeah.
So at the end of the book, when we discover the big reveal that the demon Slight is in fact Carl.
Which we knew all along. They realised,
I thought at the end that the kid was saying, the demon kept me here. Like I couldn't come out. I was too scared because the demon knew that I knew.
Yeah.
So I had to be asleep. But the blank, Frauke, he lost his blankness because it was also Carl. I didn't think it was
Carl.
What did you think it was?
I think him being next to Zale for so long, who is a telepathic psyker, an empathic psyker, meant that I think the plot in this book is, which never happens anywhere else in 40k, is that he basically got unblanked. Like Zale very slowly, from his coma, managed to get through to him and talk to him. And so they ended up being like really close little friends. and he was getting like nosebleeds and he didn't know why.
Yes.
And it's because he's getting these nosebleeds and everyone's noticing that there's loads of nosebleeds happening.
So Zale in the coma was talking to him, which shook his blankness.
Yeah.
Okay,
and obviously he ignored for ages because he didn't think that was possible. So he was like, I'm just hallucinating. This is silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was one of my favourite dramatic moments that ABNETT wrote was, I think the blank is holding Zale and they're up on the ceiling for some reason or something.
Yes.
Like to save him or something, I can't remember. And then they drop to the floor, and that's when everyone's like, what's happened? Oh my God. And then the boy's awake, and then he's not a blank anymore. But I thought that was really interesting because, as you know, my first introduction to a blank was in that very first Eisenhorn book.
Who is Beckwin?
Yeah, Beckwin. So yeah, it was really interesting to see. I mean, there's loads of stories and ideas around blanks, like the idea of having a limiter, the idea of being like strong enough to kind of block anyone out, and then now the idea of you can be unblanked,
which has never popped up anywhere else ever.
Oh,
yeah, okay. So that is quite a like Dan ABNETT thing, I think. Maybe I do think the overall we're going to get into like what the series is like now. So we should just finish off by going, and then they have a big fight.
Yes,
Moloch apparently becomes a buddy, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
And then
it's the most ridiculous.
They kill Slight, and then Ravenor kills Moloch. That's the end.
But it's like a siege. It's a climb up a mountain into a fortress of which there are armies and there are goodies and baddies, and it is like
a fight.
It's like the end of the Lord of the Rings or the end of the Narnia movie. They're all in there, and I mean, at this point, I am struggling to keep up with the characters.
There's a lot happens.
Many characters.
Thonius, cheeking contrition or sort of way out, tries to go down to lead the fight against them with like all the side characters like Belknap and them all go with him. And then
the doctor is.
Kara gets captured and Kara's memories are unlocked, so Moloch finds out that Slight is Carl.
I thought that was very clever.
That is very
horrible,
clever. Yeah,
horrible
for Kara, But that's how Moloch finds out that Slight is Carl. Then Ravenor turns up and is like, we've all got to work together, or someone is. And
yes, and Ravenor's like, does Moloch have any fripperies, any magician's tools, a cauldron.
It's like draw a magic circle and we'll figure. Okay, great, fine, done.
Anyone got salts?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's really silly. And then they have to defeat Slight. It's fine, but one of the things that I thought, if we get into how the whole series has worked, I mean, it's a typical it's a ending that all these Inquisitor books have. It all wraps up really fast. But
it's so fast.
The interesting is that getting into the whole series, I did think it was a bit of a, I don't know, waste, like it's a ploy by Dan ABNETT.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a waste of Zale. I thought he'd like do, he literally was like, went into a coma, top of book 2, didn't do anything, just he became a character, went into a coma, did nothing for 2 books, wakes up and goes, it's not me.
It was.
That's it. That's all he does.
It was like the best, like sleeping red herring.
Because we all knew it wasn't him anyway.
It wasn't him, and I was thinking it's going to be that thing where the kid comes along and it has a latent power that saves the day, and I'd have been happy with that. But no, not at all. But I did find the ending. I was satisfied with the ending, but I found it to be a bit of a damp squib also. Yeah. Because the ending's really sad. Like.
Yeah, it is actually really sad. Yeah.
People are dead. The doctor who fell in love with Kara realises she was lying all along to save Carl.
Yeah, which of course he's very, very religious, so therefore he can't have that.
Well,
so he leaves her.
He thought Kara's cancer had been killed by devotion to the Emperor and some kind of miracle. Finds out it was done by a chaos demon, and he's like, I'm off. And
to be fair, also that Kara knew that for a while before Carl wiped her memory. Like there was a period at the start of this book where Kara knows Carl's a demon.
Yeah, and she doesn't say
anything. And then Carl, like a few scenes into Act 1, wipes her memory.
Yeah. So that I found that to be really sad. And then obviously they have finally faced down not only next time Gadget, but they've also faced down Slight, which was the main baddie. And, I suppose as any employer would be, the Inquisition are not impressed. So the whole team gets split up. You get your badges taken away, and it's just a bit like it's and also I think there's something in it that I think we said this before, but the whole trilogy feels less like a movie thing and more like a TV series. Yes, 100%.
Like there's loads of subplots with prominent characters who come in and out. There's huge moves over like season-long arc style moves as this gets more complex and shifts focus from like at the start of this we were like, chasing cow beasts on Cow Planet.
I know.
And looking for a drug bust. And now we're like, Carl's a demon, but he knows, Kara knows, but Kara hasn't told Belknap. But she's had a mind wipe after that to make it, but she's also getting religious.
It's incredibly intense. And I mean, one thing that this book helped me understand is, because obviously we've read things out of order. So when Ravenor shows his face in the more recent books, and then the reaction on the internet was like, ah! I really understand it now, because people who've just finished that trilogy when it came out have been waiting, was it like a decade or something? So I get it. I understand now why it's like Ravenor has returned. But
you read Beckwin having read Eisenhorn but not read Ravenor.
Yeah.
Which is a bit weird one, because some of the Eisenhorn characters are Ravenor characters.
Yes.
Like, it feels weird that Nail was like a late addition to Eisenhorn.
I'm going to have to go back and reread. And I don't know if we'll do a video about it, but I definitely will reread, because I'll have a much bigger breadth of knowledge about it.
Yeah.
But another thing I'm a little bit sad about is I kind of thought there may be some Eisenhorn happenings going on. There's no reason for me to think that. Of course, it's foolishness. He's a separate trilogy owner, but wouldn't that have been lovely?
I don't know if this is so we'll see what's in the Magus. I've not read the Magus.
I've not read the Magus.
I think there are some short stories in it I have read.
Okay.
But it's a collection of shorts. I think it's one novella and a load of shorts. And I don't know if it includes Blackcloth to a Crown edition. I can't. There's one which Thornwish's Talon is set in the Ravenor series, and it's like an in between books thing. But I don't know if it's in the Magus. But that might fill in a few gaps for us.
Talking of Thornwish's Talon, there's a lovely bit in this book where they're all talking this language.
Glossia. The language that's definitely very secret and no one could ever decrypt.
And Moloch is just there going, oh, I know what they're saying.
There's a bit of them when Moloch is like, this is stupid.
Yeah, what a dumb language. I know this. So that was quite good. But
Yeah.
So did you enjoy this as a wrap up to the trilogy?
Yeah, I did. I liked the way Moloch was handled, actually.
Yes, I thought it was much cleverer than I thought it would be.
As a bad guy, I thought he's a better bad guy than Pontius Claw.
Yeah.
You sort of get... I think Orfeo and Moloch, again, we've said this in the last one, Orfeo and Moloch are both different sides of the I'm a crazy evil chaos cultist. You're like, no. In fact, they take the piss out of chaos cultists that aren't like them. They have thought about this.
Yeah.
Moloch is a servant of chaos. He sows trouble, and he does it very, very professionally.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an idiot.
No, although there is a whole set section where he goes into the bar with that lady.
Yeah.
And he goes, I've got a little drug here, could wipe out the whole city if I wished, could poison this and send a plague off to show how powerful and potent he is.
And everyone's like, what the fuck?
I know, and then it's impotent for the rest of it. But I really like that. He was so many layers to him. And also, I loved the baddies, like none of them could trust each other.
Yes.
And there was so much flipping and betraying. That was really interesting.
You're never quite sure who's betraying who. Yeah, partly because there's a bigger threat. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What else came up in this for you?
I'm kind of a bit sad.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
that's not it. There's one more book.
I know, but do you know what I mean? It's like I kind of feel like I would have liked to see like a 5 years later and they're on a farm and Angarad's like chopping the wheat with her.
We haven't spoken about Angarad, and that's also a really interesting point.
That is. Because...
So there is this thing that in some of the flashbacks,
no one ever dies.
No, but Ariamrod is the swordswoman that Ravenor was in love with.
Yes.
Eisenhorn's, he's in an Eisenhorn book. Ariamrod is this Carthaean swordswoman, which is this planet full of swordswomen with psychic swords.
Yeah.
And it's very serious. And Ravenor's in love with her, and then Ravenor gets mulched and she gets killed. And and so in this book, pretty quickly we meet Ariamrod, who's her niece.
Yeah, who looks exactly the same.
Exactly like her, except she's even grumpier.
Yeah.
And
even more badass.
And she immediately starts shagging Nail.
It's quick. It's a fast course.
It's in a scene. Well, there's a whole thing where the only reason her Inquisitor War... She's the only survivor of her Inquisitor Warband because she was shagging Nail. And it's because Nail got hurt by Ariamrod's sword or something in a previous thing. Yeah, and it's like silly, But the reason it's good is because she's got no personality. But the reason it's good is because it lets Ravenor then examine his feelings of jealousy. And there's a few times this comes up. One of the ones I thought was really interesting. So there's Ravenor being jealous and he's like, I know I shouldn't be jealous.
Yeah.
This is perfectly fine. And Nail's like, don't want Ravenor to know because he might be annoyed at this. Even though Ravenor has no reason to be annoyed at this. And Ravenor's like, I have no reason to be annoyed at this. I shouldn't be annoyed at this. I'm not annoyed at this, but I am annoyed at this.
That's why it was the most annoying triangle ever.
And then also, but you've also got a similar thing where there's these lovely touches in this where we examine what Ravenor's powers mean.
Yeah.
There's one where there's a comment about how perversely intimate wearing someone is.
Yeah.
Which is something that doesn't happen a lot in this book. But crucially near the start, he does it to Kara. When she was like, Kara was in trouble.
Yeah.
And the only way out was for Ravenor to wear her, which she hates. And he has this whole, like, it feels like it's like perverse. It's too much.
There's a section in the book where he says, Kara, I looked at Kara and I could see how lovely she was. And then it's something about her being curvy.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
In the same thing as and then I wore you without consent.
Yeah.
But you were going to die if I didn't. But
I know.
She's like, at the end of it, she's like, I'm annoyed at this and I'm sort of grateful to be here, but I'm also really pissed off at this.
Yeah.
And it's then thrown into more complexity because she's now in a relationship with Belknap. So it feels like it's put into this world of this is very intimate.
It made Ravenor feel more of a human because he could have love feelings, and when it showed you his body being lifted out of the chair, you realise that whole dynamic. And actually, I feel like Dan Abnett made a lot more time for feelings in this book than any of the other books, in which case I kind of don't mind a bit of a rushed ending because they were good. I love that. I kind of gave that interest to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I was annoyed that we didn't get more from the boy. I would have loved to have, the view of a boy. And also Sholto, I felt was quite underused in this.
Sholto, who last time we almost said definitely wasn't a squat.
We did.
And then in this, he has a little chat where he's like, well,
yeah,
I can't do the voice. I can't. It takes too much thinking to talk like Sholto Onworth. But he's basically like, well, my dad said his grandparents were once part of this race called the Squats, but apparently mythically existed once, I think, maybe. And maybe it might be why I'm so short.
And I think...
So he's like part 1/20th squat or something.
But the glorious thing about him mentioning it is, of course, Warhammer expunged all squats from their games.
Until like last year.
And so this is like a little tip of the hat to, squats used to be a thing, but did they exist?
I still think that the current Leagues of Votan and squats and all the new squats in that would be just much better if they all spoke like Sholto Onworth.
Agree.
That's how the whole book should be written.
Agree. I'm excited. I need to watch your videos on the new squats, don't I?
I haven't done many videos on the new squats. Need to get them.
Leave a comment if you'd like Ian to do a video. You love squats.
I love squats. I love squats. And one day when I have time, I'll paint some.
Okay.
So we have 2 questions submitted, 2 comments submitted, which I think were quite interesting. James says, I thought the entire series got better and better as I went through it, which I think we agree with. Yeah. And I'm really excited if they do decide to go ahead with the live action Ravenor series, which would be brilliant. But I thought it was a live action Eisenhorn series they were talking about.
Either way, we'll find a way to be on set reporting with microphones for you.
I do have one question, and that's whether the last minute heel turn by Molich feels slightly contrived. I know you talked in the past about Eisenhorn books shoehorning a lot into the last 20 pages, and this time I did feel that Molich coming up with a convenient way for Ravenor to stop the big scary demon had some shaky reasoning. Yeah, it's like I think they go through the does Orfeo have anything good enough, and he doesn't, and then Molich is like, yeah, all right, draw a chalk circle.
I mean...
And Ravenor, you're definitely going to get corrupted by this.
I feel
that's it. That's all he does.
I mean, I was prepared to allow the heel turn because when at that stage in the book, Slight was so big, Dan wrote that monster so big, you felt like, okay, they're either all going to die or a heel turn has to happen. And then when it did happen, you kind of realised there were 2 incredibly powerful beings on either side of the coin. So you kind of wanted to see that team up. And then you got even more bombastic shit going on. So, I mean, I was here for it.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I quite liked is it allows you to do that weird ending. That I really like the bit where... So that basically they do the ending from like Quantum of Solace, where the bad guy then walks off into the desert, and the way they end up killing Moloch finally is They just shoot him. Like, that's it. Like, that's all that happens. It's like, there's no plan. Moloch is like, fine, I'm fucked. I'm caught. There's nothing I can do. Dead then. And yeah, it's a very like dry ending for that. I agree with you. It was contrived.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And he could have opened his little pill at any time to poison everyone with the plague. And I thought, why did you put that in the story at all? I was always thinking, is he going to pull the plague out now? There was a great moment in that where he was like, here's my pill with a plague. And Orfeo and what's her name? Layla Slade. Yeah.
Are both, they're not like, wow, you're such a good chaos evil person.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you fucking mad? Why have you got that? Why have you brought that with you, idiot?
We've come for a drink.
Yeah.
But like that's
lovely.
I mean, I'm an overthinker, so I was thinking the whole time, will that be pulled out? And no.
Lawrence says, so it's been a while since I read this book. We're looking back, I think it suffers from similar issues to the books in the Eisenhorn, where the ending's a bit weak. Considering how Inquisitors, at least in the world of these books, keep linking up with demons and breaking the law, I am surprised there isn't a fourth arm of the Inquisition to manage this, or some type of purge reform. I know it's the Imperium, but the track record is pretty heretical. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the plot of any Inquisitor book, though, isn't it? Like, eventually it will get you. Exposure to chaos will corrupt eventually.
I think so. I mean, unless it's an Inquisitor comedy series, like,
Lower Decks.
Yeah, I've been busted down to a lower level, but I'm an Inquisitor. But I mean, it is. You do think, how many Inquisitors are there, and how many of them are possessed? That would be a good question to ask.
What's weird is that both of them get corrupted by the warp of magic, yet neither of them. They're both Eisenhorn and Ravenor are Ordo Xenos. They're the ones who are meant to deal with aliens, and even they get it. That's
true, actually. Well, I mean, it's better for us that they do, because otherwise it's a bit boring, really, about just everything going right on an Inquisition. And
it's the 40k thing, isn't it? That, like, it all has to be permanently, like, no victories, everything gets worse, like, everything's always succumbing to chaos, nothing will ever work. The Inquisition inevitably expose themselves to chaos and almost always either go power mad and crazy as a Puritan, or get corrupted.
I know. I mean, I do think Ravenor's biggest failing in this was his love of Thonius. That's the right one, isn't it? His love of Carl Thonius, and the inability to see any different from that amazing assistant that he had. Even when this foppish dandy turned into, like, Russell Brand after a bad night. And that was a big failing. The other failing was, being blinded by his pursuit of the big bad when the real big bad was Slight.
Yeah.
So at least he didn't fucking keep a demon in bondage with.
There is like a whole moment of this.
Or a man in a box.
There was, he didn't do either of those. Fair enough.
Drink whiskey in front of a man in a box.
He did drink whiskey in front of a man in a box, Eisenhorn, just to piss him off.
I know.
The best thing about it is that he didn't need to drink the whiskey.
He didn't.
He could have just sat there going like, yeah, I'm having a lovely pie. No, he had no senses, didn't know.
No. But so I'm just saying, Eisenhorn was a way more active. At least Ravenor thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah. And you get that when they come back in Beckwin, that Ravenor thinks Eisenhorn is still a renegade and doesn't think he is.
Well, here's hoping in the final trilogy that they both get united against a really big bad demon and die in each other's arms.
Yay!
Spoilers.
That's what's going to happen in Beckwin 3. Cool. Well, there we go. Thank you for book clubbing away through another trilogy.
I've missed you. Yes, thank you for staying with us.
And thank you, for chiming in and for watching. We will have a look and either do the Majos next, or I might have a look at the potential release date for that third book.
Yes, and we'll see if we can talk to Dan ABNETT, old friend, old buddy, and
see if he can tell us when it's coming out and when we
maybe he'll talk to us.
Maybe if we're lucky. If there's enough time, we'll do a different book in the middle.
Yeah. We want to do more. We won't leave it this long again.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.